Hi everyone and welcome to Mighty Kiddos. In today's video, we will be discussing everything you need to know about w-sitting. And towards the end of the video, we will focus on ways you can help your child solve this problem. So let's dive right in. Thank you for joining me, guys. So w-sitting is what you see here. And you could see this type of seated position where your knees are out and the kid's tushies on the ground from toddlers up until older kiddos, about 8 or 9 years old. Now let's talk about why these kids may be sitting in this position. And the first reason is that there could be structural abnormalities that are just causing the child to sit this way. For instance, in the joint muscles, in the hip joint muscles. The other reason why your child may be engaging in this is also for poor core or low muscle tone in the trunk area. So this leads to w-sitting because they have a wider base of support while they put their tushy on the ground, and therefore they don't need to rely on their trunk or their core muscles for balance or stability. Third reason, it could be just out of habit. Kids, for various reasons, may come into a w-sitting position and then quickly realize that they don't need a lot of muscle activation and that they're getting a lot of stability for very little work, and therefore they could just prefer this just plain and simply out of habit. When kids engage in this type of sitting position, they are not activating their core muscles. And we need our core muscles activating and getting stronger as we grow up. A lot of our development depends on it. The second reason is because then they develop poor posture. Because they don't have the strength in their core that they need to sit up straight, or they're not using their lateral muscles as much as they need to, then we'll start seeing our kids slouching, right? And then overall develop into poor posture in a seated position or even standing position. The third reason is that this type of sitting with your toes out and your knees out can develop to pigeon toe walking, and even for your toes to go inward in general. So we do want to correct this as soon as possible. The other reason is that when kids sit in a W position, they are having or experiencing decreased trunk rotation. So they're not using or integrating their left and right sides as much during play. And when this stops happening, or where we're not having the ability to integrate our left and right side, this can lead to decreased coordination overall, which then leads us toward the fifth reason why we should correct this. And when children engage in this type of seated position for prolonged periods of time, they may develop delays in their fine motor skills. Higher fine motor skills need the integration of your left and right hand. We depend on that, right? We need to learn how to button. We hold the shirt and put the button in. We need to learn how to thread, how to tie shoes, which depend greatly on your coordination between your left and right hand. And our last and final reason why we want to correct this type of sitting is that it can definitely put a lot of stress on our hip joints. And this can develop into hip pain when you're a young adult. This can also show up as back pain, and in older adulthood, you can develop osteoarthritis if you engaged in this type of sitting prolonged periods of time for many years. So now let's lead into the solutions. What can we do to provide support for our children? And the first step is we can provide many different ways of sitting instead of sitting in the W position. So for instance, we could do crisscross applesauce like you see here. We could do side sitting like you see baby Z here. We can also encourage our kiddos to engage in squatting play. We could do what is known as short kneeling, where you're tucking your feet underneath your tush and you're sitting right on top of it. We could also have the kids engage in half kneeling, where they're putting one foot flat and the other knee bent, as you see here. And we could also do long sitting. In this long seated position, you could either engage it with support, like providing a wall where your child could put their back on for support and stretching their legs out, or just stretch your legs out during play. And my favorite position to offer kids, and the one to engage in myself, is the prone position, which means just laying on the floor, putting the pressure on my forearms, and doing whatever it is I need to do, like either coloring, puzzles, homework. You can offer those options. The other thing you could do is you want to really focus on strengthening your child's core. If you haven't watched the video on how to strengthen your baby's core, take a look at that. I will link it at the end of this video. And also just engage in crunches if you have older kids. For instance, like kindergarten and up, you can engage in crunches. You can engage in sit-ups. You could do animal walks like gorilla walks. You could also engage in tug of war, things that will bring more strength to your child's core, and that will help with their posture and their ability to sit in a better position. And the third one is that we want to just offer a lot of repetition and a lot of verbal cues. Oh, straighten up your legs, crisscross applesauce. Oh, let's change that. Let's sit a different way. So as soon as you, so the more you repeat it, the more you correct it, it will become second nature to your child, and he or she will be reminded like, oh yeah, I should sit like this, and then they'll get to the point where they could correct it. If they're older, if they're like baby Z, you could just correct it yourself, as I do, many times. You can see in my video here, I just correct him to encourage him to sit in side lying. Our last solution here is to look for help. You can either request a PT evaluation, physical therapist evaluation, or an evaluation by an occupational therapist. Who you look for help is going to depend on what kind of things you're seeing. If your child is developing a limp, if you see that your child's extremities are demonstrating a lot of weakness and that you're noticing pigeon-toed walking, I would recommend that you reach out to a physical therapist for an evaluation. Now, if you're noticing that your child has uncoordinated fine motor skills, for instance, they're having trouble tying their shoe, or they're having trouble, doing buttons, then we're going to request an evaluation for an occupational therapist. Other things to look for in order to reach out for an occupational therapist: if your child is unable to sit in a position other than W position, then we want to reach out as well, okay? If you're noticing clumsiness, uncoordinated movements with their hands, and low or poor muscle strength or core strength, we really want to reach out to an occupational therapist. Thank you for watching this video, guys. I appreciate your time. I hope you guys found this video helpful. Don't forget to like this video and share it with others that might find this material helpful. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.